9, 8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to try to tell this story without breaking into an Irish accent, which is difficult for me, but we'll see if it can work. So an Irishman's been drinking at a pub all night. When it comes time to leave, he stands up and he falls flat on his face. Now, he tries to struggle, pull himself back up. He gets up on it and again falls on his face. So he does this over and over, trying to get out. He gets out of the club. Eventually, he's just lying there and he's like, I got to get home. So he decides just to crawl there. And it's not that far. It's a few blocks, but he's outside. He's crawling. He's getting some fresh air. You know, and he's working his way home. He gets all the way home. And when he arrives at the door, he decides, all right, he stands up to open the door and he falls on his face. So he crawls through the door into his bedroom. When he reaches his bed, he tries one more time to stand up. And this time he manages to at least pull himself upright long enough to fall onto the bed. Now then he just passes right out, sound asleep. And he awakens the next morning, sun coming through the window, the birds chirping, and his wife standing over him, glaring. Says, so, you've been out drinking again? And he put on his most innocent-looking face. He goes, why would you say that? And she said, the pub called. You left your wheelchair there again. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I want to say hello to Ed, to Cool, and to Triple B. Good to see you guys. We've got Jay on the board, and somebody asked if we had a good weekend. I think it was Triple B. I did. I had a very good weekend. I escaped. I got out. I went up to see Lisa in the desert. Went over to a barbecue, had some good food, hung out there. Then went back and watched a bunch of good stuff. We watched a couple episodes of the new series Bodies, which I hadn't seen before or even heard of. We watched some of the final season of The Witcher, or Henry Cavill's final season of The Witcher. And she hadn't seen Glass Onion, so we watched that. The interesting thing that comes out of Bodies is that there was a guy in it who's set in the 1895 era or whatever that is. And he's this cop and he's got this beard and he's got these like piercing blue eyes. But he doesn't ever really show emotion. He's very stoic. But you see a lot in his face, even though he's not showing anything. And I'm watching this guy, and I'm watching him. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. And he's the only one in the entire series that looks familiar to me. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, even the part he's playing seems familiar. What am I missing? And then finally it clicked. He's the guy from Andor. The security guy or the security cop who ends up becoming obsessed with him and still investigates and keeps going. And, you know, his mom is annoying and he ends up in a weird situation with the blonde woman. It's the same actor. but he's playing the same part, except for the annoying wife is an annoying daughter now, and he's still being told not to investigate the crime he's supposed to investigate, and he's doing it on the side. It's like I'm watching, it's the same character. How do you go and cast him to be the exact same part? And in both of them, he's shown like zero range other than looking awkwardly determined to do something. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good way to describe him. Awkwardly determined to do something. So I got that. Really loved Glass Onion again. I can't wait till they do the third Benoit Blanc movie. And got the first episode of the final Witcher thing. And that was really long. And the writing didn't seem as good. It's still a good story, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it wraps up. But some of the dialogue just seemed clunky. McClunky. Yeah, that's at Star Wars, McClunky. So, yeah, the dialogue was McClunky. All right, we're going to jump into the news. We got a lot of it today. A lot of interesting things happening. So let me bring up my notes. We're going to start with Jeremy Renner. Jeremy Renner has shared an update on his recovery on his Instagram. Yep, definitely typecasting. Last January, as you probably remember, Renner was in a snowplow accident that left him with some pretty life-threatening injuries, and we weren't really sure if he was going to make it, and if so, what shape he was going to be in. So his recovery has been remarkable. But he wrote, "I have been exploring every type of therapy since January 14th. Every day, countless hours of physical therapy, peptide injections, IV drips and pushes, stem cells and exosomes, red light, IR therapy, hyperbaric chamber 2.0 atmospheres, cold plunge, and the list goes on and on. But my greatest therapy has been my mind and the will to be here and push to recover and be better, be exceptional. I feel it's my duty to do so, not to squander my life being spared, but to give back to my family, friends, and all of you who've empowered me to endure. I thank you all." Now, Renner is it seems like he's starting to resume his acting career. He's got a narration project coming up with kind of a nature program. I don't remember which one it is, but it's on National Geographic, so it'll be on Disney Plus. And also, he's slated to reprise his role in Mayor of Kingstown for their upcoming third season. So it's good to see him kind of getting back into it. Hopefully, one day he'll return to the bow and arrow in the Avenger film. So, speaking of Marvel, the numbers for the Marvels aren't looking very good. The opening on Friday, the latest sequel to the 2019 Captain Marvel movie, The Marvels, which is also an extension of the Disney Plus series WandaVision and Ms. Marvel, has seen its weekend forecast starting to dip. It was originally 75 to 80 3 weeks ago. Now it's expected to be about 60. Some tracking services has it as low as 50. And that domestic opening, it's a $200 million production and is looking to bring in about $50 million to open. That wouldn't be very good. That's down in the Ant-Man range of like 57.2 million and would be considerably lower than Eternals, which a lot of people felt was a misfire for Marvel. But the overseas projections sit a little bit better. They're looking at about 80 million. But again, if the global kicks off at about 140 million, that's still lower than the Eternals and even lower than the theatrical day and date for Black Widow, which brought in 148 million. But and that could come in lower even. The pre-sales have not been good. They're down around the range of The Flash, which only did 55 million stateside. So And you can tell that Marvel is paying attention, because if you'll notice, there's been another trailer dropped where they're tying it directly into Endgame. And there's even, they show you the cameo for Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson's character. So they're really trying to drum up some attention, some excitement for this film. And it's supposed to be pretty important in what's going to happen going forward in the multiverse saga. This is supposed to be where it all starts. So I don't know. We'll have to see how this all pans out. I'm hoping that the tracking numbers are just off and people are going to go and see it. You know, there's not a lot out there opposite of it. We're coming close to the holiday season, but I think people are still going to want to get out. So we shall see. All right. We're going to move over to what may be my favorite story of the day. I even told Jay about this one beforehand because it's such an amazing story. Okay. The front man for Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, the guy that sings Seventh Son, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Bring Your Daughters to the Slaughter. That guy. Well, he's gotten producers to take a chance on him, as the singer has been signed on to star in a horror movie called Bjorn of the Dead. The film centers around an ABBA tribute band who find themselves, along with various other tribute acts, trapped in a nightclub at the start of the apocalypse. Bjorn and his band must work together to save themselves, humanity, and the future of music. Now, this film comes from Elsa Kephart, who did the movie Slacks, and was written and co-produced by Austin Dickinson, based on the original story by Andrew Prendergast, who produces along with Austin Dickinson. I don't know if Austin Dickinson and Bruce Dickinson are related, but that does seem to be a huge coincidence. But I really want to hear Bruce Dickinson sing Mamma Mia, Take a Chance on Me. Come on. That's just awesome. It does. It sounds, as Ed said, that sounds amazingly ridiculous. Absolutely. And I love it. You know, it could be like the Shaun of the Dead for this century or this decade. So, all right, shifting gears to one of my favorite series on streaming. Amazon Prime released the trailer for the second season of Reacher. And the series is going to drop on December 15th. Alan Ritchson, of course, returns as Jack Reacher as he receives a coded message that the members of his former U.S. Army unit, the 110th Military Police Special Investigations Unit, are being mysteriously and brutally murdered one by one. Now, if you're a fan of the first season, Maria Sten returns as Frances Nagley. She's the only other character besides Reacher to return from season 1, and this is normal for a Reacher story. There's a series of books. The books are written by Lee Childs, and rarely is there any other recurring character other than Reacher, Nagley being one of the few. And she's not even in the book, the first that they adapted for the first season. So they actually kind of squeezed her into the first season, where she is a major part of the second. The second book that they're translating is Bad Luck and Trouble. It's the 11th novel, the 11th Reacher novel by Lee Childs. So now joining the cast, there's some interesting casting. They're bringing in Serinda Swan, who played Zatanna on Smallville, where Richardson played Aquaman, and was Medusa in The Inhumans. They've also cast Sean Sipos, who played Adam Strange on Krypton. So there's a strong DC connection work going on here, with all of them having played a hero. Richardson, of course, having played 2, as he was also Hawk on Titans. Now, along with Sten and the 3 plus Reacher, so Sipos' character, Swan's character, plus Nagley and Reacher, those are the four members of the Special Investigators who end up looking for the other members of the team. Also joining the series is Robert Patrick, who you may know from either X-Files, Terminator 2, or Peacemaker. And then there's also Ferdinand Kingsley and Dominic Lombardozzi, okay. It's almost like you went, Lombardi is a great name, but we need to make it more Italian. So we're going to add a couple Z's. Lombardozzi. The 8-episode second season will launch with the first 3 episodes releasing on December 15th, and then subsequent episodes rolling out weekly through January 19th. So we are going to definitely be covering Reacher. I love the character. I love the show. So we're good to go. Jay says, restore the CW verse. Yeah. With the ending of Superman and Lois, that's the last remnants of the CW verse going out. All right. We've got some decent news having to do with the actors' strike, which seems to be going on forever. The lead negotiators for SAG-AFTRA and the studios are set to meet later today in what could be the final phase to sealing a new deal and the end of the 117-day Actors Guild strike. 117 days, that's like 4 months. With the AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA having achieved a breakthrough late last night on the contentious topic of AI. Duncan Crabtree Ireland and AMTP President Carol Lombardini, another Italianized version of the word Lombardi, or the name Lombardi, are scheduled to talk this afternoon. Insiders are saying we are very close, not done yet, but very close, with strong protection language in place. The source added of AI guardrails long sought by the Guild even before they went to strike in mid-July. So money and AI have been the 2 biggest tripping points. And it looks like they may be finally getting the AI part of it worked out. And then it's just a matter of coming together on the money. So, all right. And then 2 more stories. In an interview with Deadline, Blade director Jan Demange confirmed that Marvel Studios has given him the green light for an R rating. Yep, Blade's going to be rated R. Demange stated that Marvel gave him the R, and the director even described what a relief it was to him, saying that it was so important that it achieved that rating. He said, I come out of this wanting to be more open, more vulnerable, and bring more personal aspect to my work. But for Blade, we're going to have fun because Mahershala is such a deep actor. He went on to say, I'm excited to show a kind of ruthlessness, a roughness he has that allows him to walk the earth in a particular way. I love him for that. He's got dignity and integrity, but there's a ferocity there that he usually keeps under the surface. I want to unleash that and put it on screen. Kind of sounds like he gets Blade. So I like that. All right. One last story. And this is potential casting of a character from Creature Commandos that we didn't know about yet. The rumor is saying that the character of Cersei is going to be one of the bad guys. Now, this is not the same Cersei from Marvel, though that Cersei may be based on the Cersei from Greek mythology, who this character is supposed to be. So if she is part of the Creature Commandos, what they're saying is, and you have to take in mind that because the strike has been going for 4 months, this had to have happened beforehand. because Creature Commandos had already been recorded and they were putting the final touches on it. It's going to happen. But, there's all of the actors part of it was already done. So this would have had to have been done 4 months ago. And we've got no confirmation of it until these rumors now. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but I think it's good casting. But the word is that the Wonder Woman villain, that's what Cersei is as a Wonder Woman villain, will be voiced by Anya Chalotra, who is best known for her role as Yennefer on the Witcher series on Netflix. So she'll be cast as another sorceress, I guess. Now, if the character moves from animation to live action, as some of these characters are meant to do, then, according to what Gunn has said, she would play Cersei in live action as well. So, and she'd be a good villain for a Wonder Woman movie, or for the talked about Paradise Lost TV series that's supposed to take place on Themyscira. So maybe they're setting her up for that. I don't know. Cersei, of course, comes from Greek mythology and was originally introduced to DC Comics in 1949. And that's basically what she is. She's a beautiful, immortal sorceress. But again, this has not been confirmed by Gunn or anybody at Warner Brothers. So little grain of salt on that one. All right, guys, that is the news. We are going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to talk the 5th and penultimate episode of Loki. Be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
So I had a very nerdy moment the other night. By the way, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Remember to stick around. After this will be, tonight will be Minute to Skim It with Jay, which is the only one you care about. But Kyle and Miss Jen will be on it, talking the new books that are coming out this week. That's not true. We all love Miss Jen. And then Mint Hunter later tonight. So, yeah, please give me the like and thumbs up and those things. And we've got some big subscription stuff coming up. We're looking to drive to 2,500. So help spread the word, get some more people in here to subscribe, stuff like that. Because we've got some huge things coming up if we get to 2,500 by Thanksgiving. Things that are going to excite you guys. Things like maybe some giveaways, maybe some special programming, maybe some live events. We haven't said exactly what it is, but yeah, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. If you have subscribed, go make some fake accounts and subscribe again. Go get your friends to subscribe. Sneak on your wife's computer, your husband's computer, subscribe from them. Go onto your kids' phones, do the same thing. Just get as many subscriptions as possible. And if you get caught, tell them Kyle told you to do it. So, okay. So I had a nerdy moment the other day. I'm online, and somebody posted a picture of Magneto and a picture of Iron Man side by side. But it was Ian McKellen and Robert Downey Jr. And they said, who would win between these two? And I thought about it for a moment. And the obvious thing is, Tony Stark is in a big metal outfit. This is the master of magnetism. He would just destroy him. And then I thought about, well, wait a minute. Not all metal is magnetic. So if Iron Man's armor is not magnetic, could Magneto do anything with it? Because he controls magnetic waves and stuff like that. So I went, well, what is Iron Man's armor made out of? And I know that they talk about it in the movies, and I figured it out, that it's made of either titanium or a titanium alloy. And I looked it up, and titanium is not magnetic. I thought, oh, well, that's important. So then I went back over and I looked at Magneto's powers and tried to figure out, well, can he only affect things that are magnetic? Because it's magnetic waves. And as I'm trying to look into that, I look up other magnetic metals and I see nickel. And I'm like, oh, nickel. Well, and then I started looking into the titanium alloy, and some of it is nickel. So it's like, okay, the titanium's not magnetic, but the nickel's magnetic. So if it's a cross between the two, then his armor might be magnetic. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm looking at this list of different magnetic metals, and I see iron. Well, that's funny because he's Iron Man, but he doesn't actually have a suit of iron armor anymore. So, it would have been funny in the beginning, but since it's not iron anymore. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, where else do we have iron? There is iron in our bloodstreams, and I know Magneto has used that. He's actually controlled people with the iron in their blood. Well, we all have blood, so it doesn't matter if Tony Stark is in a magnetic or non-magnetic metal suit. He's got iron in his blood. So it's a completely ridiculous argument. And then as I had all that in my head, and it was about 3 hours later from all the research, I thought, what in the hell am I doing? And I closed my browser and went to bed. So let's get into Loki. In case anybody hasn't seen it, Jay, can you put the spoiler thing up? Because we're going to talk spoilers for the 5th episode. Yeah, copper wiring and stuff like that. But yeah, not that many metals are actually magnetic. All right, so if you haven't noticed, Loki season 2 is doing the exact same thing that Loki season 1 did. They gave us 4 episodes with a seeming villain. Season 1, Sylvie was the villain. Season 2, Ravonna and Miss Minutes were the villain. And then we have that moment at the end of episode 4 where it's like, what just happened? Season 1, it was Loki being pruned. Season 2, it's the spaghettification of Victor Timely and the destruction of all time. So episode 5 of season 1 took place all in the void. It was 100% story about the void. You know, the only thing that took place outside of it was Sylvie finally realizing she needed to get to the void and going to the void. This was all about Loki trying to figure out what to do. And it's kind of self-contained because by the end of it, we are outside of this whole time loop thing. We're into something different. And that's what they did last time. But, you know, the next episode started with them making it to the Citadel at the end of time. So it's a formula that not a lot of shows use, a 4-1-1, but they've made it work twice in a row. So as long as they stick the landing on Thursday, they've pulled it off twice. Now, what did we get with this latest episode? We got a lot of deeper information on the cast of characters around Loki. We found out Loki's true motivation, and we set the stakes, which is good to do going into a final episode. You know, we found out why Mobius likes jet skis, because he used to sell them. They were everything for him. We also find out that he has 2 kids and that he had a wife. Now, they don't really say exactly what happened to the wife. They just say she's gone. So it is possible that she left him. But the way the character kind of plays out, it feels more to me like she was snapped, that she disappeared in the blip, because when we get him is in the middle of the blip, or, you know, after the snap. So she is probably one of the people that disappeared. So I thought that was actually kind of interesting, because he was struggling to figure out how to deal with his kids, to keep his job going. He's finally accepting that she's not going to come back. He's going to sell her jet ski, all of that. So I thought that was interesting. We find out about Casey. We find out Casey's actually famous. This is kind of a nod to the first season where Loki was D.B. Cooper. It turns out Casey was Frank Morris, one of the 3 men to have successfully escaped Alcatraz. And while, you know, everybody believes that they died trying to get to the island away from Alcatraz, they've never been a body. They've never caught him, you know. So that's one of the big mysteries, just like D.B. Cooper is one of the big mysteries. But so they're tying that in. So again, they're kind of doing the same thing as season 1. It's kind of repeating itself. There's a comfort to it that I like. We find out that Ouroboros, or Obi, is an author named A.D. Doug, who has a PhD, who went in, you know, got his degree so that he could pay the bills while writing. But writing is his big thing. He's a science fiction writer who has not really done well. He actually goes into bookstores, puts his own books on the shelves, and then buys them, hoping that would spur the store to buy more copies. But he also has his picture in the book, which kind of ruins it for him. But yeah, so he's kind of an interesting character. And Loki ends up giving him the TVA handbook, which then teaches him how to do all the things that he wrote about. So it's kind of this circular thing that they're doing, this, Ouroboros or Mobius strip. It's, the circular thing that they're really big on. But what might be the most interesting reveal is that Hunter B-15 plays a character named Verity Willis. And it turns out that is an actual character from Marvel Comics during the Agent Loki series. She is... Verity Willis was the daughter of Roger Willis, a member of the family who had the duty to protecting the casket of Ancient Winters, which we see in the first Thor movie. Roger's father, Eric Wilson, was entrusted with Enveronaut, a magical ring that allowed its users to see through any lie. But when she was a baby, Verity swallowed it. And when they took her to the hospital and did x-rays, they discovered the ring had dissolved, but the truth-telling ability or truth-seeing ability of the ring got transferred to Verity, so she could see through any lie. And this made her kind of an interesting foil for Loki, and the two became very good friends. So it's interesting that they're like, okay, Hunter B-15 is Verity Willis. She's also a doctor, a pediatrician. So I do like the fact that we're getting these backstories and stuff. It said he's really James Bond, who was also in The Rock, that escaped from Alcatraz. Yeah, there's that strong theory that Sean Connery's character in The Rock is actually James Bond. And it does match up to some of the original stories during breaks and stuff, when he was away from the service, stuff like that. It's a pretty strong theory. I don't know if it's true, but it's a pretty strong theory. But so we find out who all of they are. And we find out that Sophie went back to the world she had been living in, where she worked at McDonald's, and is the only one to retain her memories. So Loki starts going around trying to get the band back together, working with OB as AD Doug to try to solve what's going on. But at the same time, he's time slipping. And he's time slipping a lot in the beginning. And OB is trying to talk him into or figure out how he could control it. And that's pretty much the gist of it. The idea is that if they can get all the members back and they use a temp pad, they could go back to the point where everything started, and they could try to do something different to prevent the spaghettification of Victor Timely and the destruction of the time. So that's their plan. The problem is that when they finally get to that point, and he's able to bring everybody together. One of the things he does is he goes and talks to Sylvie, and Sylvie doesn't want to be part of it, and actually gets him to see his true motivation. I want to stop Kang. I want to stop the Time War. I want to get the TVA back together. And she forces him to boil it down to the very simple realization that he wants his friends back. That he actually cares about the people of the TVA now. He feels part of that group, and that he misses his friends. So that's a huge revelation for Loki. That's not normal for him. He's always been the outsider, the loner. He doesn't have friends. he was my friends talking to the Warrior Stree or Lady Sif, but they weren't friends, So it's pretty fascinating to see him really kind of connect with these people and care about them and want them back. And he's tired of losing things. He's lost, even though he wasn't there when she died, he knows that his mother's gone. He knows his father's gone. He doesn't have a relationship with his brother anymore. All of that is pretty traumatic. And now he's got this group of friends. He trusts Mobius. He has feelings for Sylvie. He's come to respect OB and Casey and Hunter B-15. So it's neat to see that motivation and the continued growth of the character. Also, there's little things they put in the episode that I really liked. Like at one point, Casey, as the character Frank Morris, makes a comment to the people following him, saying that if we don't hurry up, they're going to catch us and gut us like a fish. And it goes, we go back to season 1, where Loki says that to Casey, and Casey doesn't know what a fish is. So we see that they've all had their mind wiped. It's pretty interesting to see where they all come from and the lives they have. The problem is that even by the time he gets all of them together and Sylvie realizes that time is unraveling, that all the other multiverses are unraveling, or whatever you want to call them, all the variations are unraveling. By the time she gets there, there's not enough time to actually put it together and get back. And he watches as the tent pad that Mobius made, which was actually this huge thing, unravels, and Casey unravels, and Obi unravels, and then Mobius and Hunter B-15, and finally Sylvie. And that's when he kind of figures out how to use his ability, and he's able to force time slip back a few minutes to when Sylvie first arrived. And that it doesn't, the thing that he must focus on is the who he's trying to save, who he's trying to connect with. So he figures it out. And so by the end of the episode, he ends up back at the TVA right before Victor goes outside. So he's back to where he wanted to be, but it's just him. And now he's got to figure out how to solve everything. Now we've seen clips and stuff. What's going to happen going forward now that he's back there? There are some trailer clips like Loki walking out onto the bridge or whatever it is, out towards the time loom without any suit on or anything. So we're obviously going to see that because it's the last episode. We still haven't seen Ravonna in the Void, so that's got to pop up at some point. And we see him making a speech or trying to explain something because, okay, once again, so it's still possible that this is something he has to do multiple times to get right. So that may be what the final episode is. But from the producers and stuff, they've said that they look at season 1 and season 2 as 2 parts of the same book. So, now that's not saying there won't be a season 3, but they're not going to set it up like they did at the end of season 1. It's not going to be clearly there's more to come. They're going to more set up what's going to happen in Kang Dynasty and stuff like that going forward. So I'm really curious to see what's going to be the finale. But, and will we have multiverses still? Because this would be a good place to trim everything back down into one timeline and get away from multiverses, but it's not going to happen. We already know that the Marvels has another universe trying to bleed through, that Dar-Ben is opening up portals to other worlds and is drawing off of their resources to try to rebuild Hala, the Kree homeworld. So there's going to be other universes. We know what the ending of, the rumored ending of the Marvels is supposed to be, how that involves another universe. So I don't think we'll get that. I think we'll probably end up with a much more controlled timeline. But, and it's not imminently going to die, and the TVA will be somewhat reestablished, especially since they're supposed to appear in Deadpool. Be kind of hard for the TVA to show up if they don't exist. I guess they could show up from another time. I don't know if that works, because they're supposed to be outside of time. Interesting. So, yeah, I think we're going to end up with a somewhat satisfactory conclusion to Loki's part of the story, but there'll be stuff set up for the multiverse saga going forward. Will we know who the Kang is that's going to be the deadly one or the dangerous one? Those type of things. And I think we will get that out of this. I think by the time this ends, we will know what a real threat Kang is. I think Loki will discover that there's a good chance that Loki is part of the creation of the TVA, and that the rest of the team is as well. That's why they've been there so long, is that they actually helped build it. It's that big circular thing going on again. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And this really has been a very good season. It's probably one of the better seasons or series that Marvel has done. I didn't love the first season. I liked it, but there were other series that I liked above it. Adding the second season, making it, one series, has moved it up quite a bit on my list. So, again, Thursday night. Yeah. Cannot wait for that. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how it wraps up. Then we got the Marvels opening that night and this weekend. And then I don't know if we're getting something in December. There's been talk about one thing or another. And then we get Echo in January, which, if you guys haven't seen that trailer, that looked really good. People are suddenly excited about Echo. And then it's going to be an all-at-once drop of 5. It's only 5 episodes, and it's an all-at-once drop. So that should be interesting, too. Marvel's made the Marvels shorter and Echo shorter. So it's almost like they went, look, this is what we got, but we're going to streamline it. We're going to take this other stuff out. We're only going to put out what is absolutely the best. I'm hoping that's what they're doing. So, all right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. So be right back.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting. Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Remember to stick around for Minute to Skim It and Mint Hunters both on tonight. You definitely want to see that. Yeah, it does have that Netflix feel. The Echo series does have that Netflix Marvel feel. But then again, the majority of it was really Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, talking and acting and stuff. So, and even in the white suit that he wore on the Netflix series. So absolutely. Minute to Skim It starts not right after this, but 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think that's what it is. So time zones get me. And then you had the time change, which I still don't know why we still do. But it's... yeah. And I wasn't home when the time change happened, so that made it even weirder. So, yeah, stick around for a Minute to Skim It and Mint Hunter. Tomorrow always is a busy day. Not quite sure what we're doing yet. I've got a guest that we're trying to lock in. And actually, I have two guests we're trying to lock in. We'll see what happens. If not, I may spend an hour talking about Magneto and how his powers work. And what he would do against Iron Man and Colossus and stuff like that. Really does seem like the metal needs to be magnetic for him to have any effect on it, is what I'm saying. Let's see. Ed says, that hour in between gets me every week. I get messing around or grading and forget to come back. I was in the future when the time change happened, then I got sucked back in to the past. 7 Eastern, I think Ed is an Eastern time zone. Confuses me too. All I know is Texas is Central. Yeah. I literally picture the map in my mind of the United States. And whenever I think of, it's like, oh, it's 7 p.m. Eastern. 7, 6, 5, 4 o'clock here. I count the time zones. And then if somebody goes, well, what time is it on in Hawaii? And my only answer is, if you're in Hawaii, go to the frickin' beach. Don't watch this show. Go out to a luau. Because I don't know what the time zone is for Hawaii. That's just too bizarre. So, all right, guys, we are going to wrap it up there. But yeah, I will be back tomorrow with some topic. And we'll have a lot of fun, as usual. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dan, don't go down the rabbit hole of finding all things Magneto can do in the, yeah, that would be sleepless nights. I'd probably be wide awake tomorrow going, all right, I've been up the whole 24 hours. Here's everything Magneto can do. All right. Have a great night, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. Good night.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.